everywhere but Africa. Everywhere. It just didn't make sense to go to Africa at that time. So we were like, let's go to Colombia, let's go to Panama, let's go to Singapore, let's go to Thailand. And my wife says, hey, look, have you considered Africa? And I was like, absolutely not. because the consensus or how America markets Africa, it's not what we see today.
Right.
It's not. It's just not.
Go ahead.
So, I think for me, the deciding factor was when we decided to say, hey, look, there has to be a better way. It has to be. Because as far as where we were financially, we were okay, but we didn't see an end to it. It was just like, what are we working for? Because everything we worked for seemingly just got ate up in the machine of the U.S. house. It's hard to save, we had children, house, everything has to be insured. And so then when we began to look at other options, and that's when we decided to say, okay, maybe not the U.S. Let's look for that. So that was when we decided that I think when we decided Kenya, we didn't decide Kenya first. We were looking at everywhere but Africa. Everywhere. It just didn't make sense to go to Africa at that time. So we were like, let's go to Colombia, let's go to Panama, let's go to Singapore, let's go to Thailand. And my wife says, hey, look, have you considered Africa? And I was like, absolutely not. because the consensus or how America markets Africa, it's not what we see today.
Right.
It's not. It's just not. And so when we looked, ran across Kenya, and that looks nice. That looks like really doable.
Yeah.
And then we began to research, and upon researching, there you popped up, and it was like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Who is this guy? Does he have the ability to help us? Was the thing, and that was kind of the trepidation with both of us moving forward. And then we found out, we researched, and everything started lining up. You know, when it's meant to be, you don't have to work for it. It just kind of like lines itself up, and you're looking back like, how did this happen? And that's kind of where we are right now. How did this happen? You know, and so that was where we are as far as the origin story of me and my wife, as far as coming to Kenya itself.
Well, how smooth was it? So, I know from my point of view, it's always smooth, but I'm looking back over years of experience, and to me, everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen.
Right.
But I can't even remember what it felt like to not know what was going to happen and move through it that way. So how did it feel for you moving through the process, not necessarily knowing what was going to happen?
Well, I think the hardest part of the process was just not knowing what to expect when we got here. As far as the in-between part, the fine print, very smooth. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was like, I can't really express it verbally of how smooth it was. It was almost alarming how smooth it was. You kind of got to pinch yourself because it's surreal. You're like, okay, is this going to have any issues or hiccups? None. It was all up front. Everything was written out, shown to us, clear, concise, and to the point. It was like, okay, this does work. It does work.
Yeah.
This is a possibility. I'm a big proponent of telling people, hey, look, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. You do not have to get stuck in that hamster wheel.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You can live. You don't have to wait till you're 70 or 80 to finally get to the place where you want to be in life. You can enjoy life and see things for what they really are. What the people put on TV, you can actually live.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was smooth. It was definitely smooth. That's way I can describe it. Hassle-free.
Yeah.
That's what I can say.
Yeah.
Hassle-free, no pressure. It was organic, everything.
And did you have any other friends that go through a similar process, but they went a different way?
Yes. Personal friends did that. So, two of our close friends who are actually here in Kenya, but now have to leave because they didn't take the proper steps. You know, sometimes people just don't get that, hey, look, this is possible, and to do it this way. Some people want to find their own way, and that's fine.
Right.
I agree. Everybody needs to find what works for them. But unfortunately, it doesn't work for them.
Right.
You know, unfortunately. You have to do it a certain way, and there is a template on how to accomplish the dreams you want.
Yeah.
And some people just don't get that, you know. And they're our family. We love them, but they have to leave now because they didn't follow the template and seeing how it works. So, in regards to that, yes, a couple people. And on the flip side of things, there are also a couple people in my family that now see the outcome and want to be a part of it.
Right.
So it's like, okay, Tim did it. It's possible.
Right.
You know.
Right. Now you got a full setup. So you got your house, you got your car, you got everything, driver's license, the whole nine.
Right.
How does it feel now to have the house? You ain't got to worry about no payments. You ain't got to worry about, you know, no extra money going in there. There's no HOA. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable. Because that's just not. Listen, I'm in my 40s, and that's just not heard of. Outside of being a millionaire, you know, that's just not heard of. When you live on a beach, own your house, have everything taken care of and paid for, and there is no headache.
Yeah.
That's like what they consider the American dream, but it's not in America.
That's right.
That's
I
the
heard
flip.
that.
That's the flip side. So it's amazing. To wake up without that burden.
Yeah.
Hey man, I gotta go punch a clock. To only pay money to go punch a clock again to pay more money to punch another clock until I'm like 65 and have like maybe 30 more years of life left in America accordingly. So yeah, it's a great feeling. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I call home, even my family, he's like, "So you did what?" You know? Yeah. So even my brother you just met. He's coming back in September.
Very nice.
Yeah, he just left, so he's coming back in September because he can't believe it. He said, I called him yesterday, and he said, man, I feel like a foreigner in America. I'm coming back where you at. I'm coming where you are. So it's like, even families, when they see it and they put hands on it, it changes the outlook. And I think that's the big struggle for a lot of people. They can't put hands on it and see it.
Yeah.
You know?
I know when I was looking around the continent, one of the things that stood out to me, and I don't know if it does stand out to everybody else, but for me, it made a lot of sense that the way Kenya operates is similar enough to America that there was no learning curve per se.
You're right.
You know, like I didn't have to do a language curve. I know a lot of people who were, they gravitated to Tanzania, or as we might say in the US, Tanzania, but when you're there, so many people lack English language skills that you really got to get into Swahili.
You do.
Here, you can go out to the countryside and the oldest person speaks English.
True.
You know.
True.
And then the way that they're comfortable with technology when it comes to money. You know, as far as like blockchain type of transactions and electronic transactions, that really had a homey feel as well. Whereas a lot of the countries on the continent, they don't trust their government with any money, much less to have their entire life savings on their cell phone. You know, where Kenyans are cool with that. They trust the technology. The technology's never bit them. You know what I mean? There's never been a major issue with the technology. So they're cool with having a digital currency, for lack, you know, of a better term. And so that made things real kind of palatable from a business sense. Is that you can hit the ground and just do business.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about learning nothing. Hit the ground with the business idea. Boom, we're doing business. That's the end.
Easy.
You know.
Easy transition.
So yeah, that made a lot of sense to me. And then you know when you look at you know the World Bank used to come out with this score called Ease of Doing Business score, and then Kenya's Ease of Doing Business score was phenomenal. You know, for years, still pretty good. I think it did drop one or two notches, but it's still pretty good. Still higher than like Luxembourg and like European, you know, Luxembourg is said to be the richest country on the planet, and their ease of doing business score is worse, you know, than Kenya's. So definitely great in the top 3 or 4 on the continent, you know, and then beating these industrialized countries and first world countries for ease of doing business. But a lot of people try to do business here, they hit a brick wall because they go about it their own way. They try to figure it out on their own. They don't want to deal with a professional, or they don't want to pay a professional to do it. And so they try to find somebody cheap to get something done. And that is not how you start any business.
No.
You know what I mean? And so you run into these issues. But here, a lot of the metrics that we use to judge, a country and to judge whether or not they have the infrastructure that we personally needed to thrive, we'll take these kind of universal tests. And one of the ones that we always used to use was, how is their medical knowledge accepted? You know what I mean? And so here in Kenya was the only place in East Africa that a nurse can just take, there's an exam called the NCLEX. They can just take an NCLEX exam, send their results to an American Board of Nursing at whatever state, and get a license to practice, nursing in the U.S. No other country in East Africa can do that. Their nurses aren't recognized.
Wow.
So when the medical knowledge is up to par, and I'm like, okay, if their doctors are trained the same, their nurses are trained the same, their engineers are just accepted. If all of that is on par, then the infrastructure is probably there, or at least the framework to build the infrastructure that's needed is more than likely there, to move forward. And I guess that's from a business, standpoint, and not everybody is doing that. We got a lot of people that they just want to move here and just live here and not do business. But for us, that kind of business standpoint really stood out there. I don't know if that was a factor for you, or if you saw that at all.
Well, for the medical side of things, that was a very big concern, because you hear stories, you hear things like that, and you see how it's depicted through media and so forth. And so that's a big deal for myself and my family. So when I got here, experiencing it, so I went to the hospital here, and it's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just different people.
Yep.
That's it. It's literally the same thing. In fact, I would say the service is better, actually, because it's more personal.
Yeah.
It's more concerning as far as like, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
What's going on? We want to hear how you're feeling, and we're going to treat that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just going to blanket you and give you a bunch of medication to cover a problem. We're here to fix it.
Right.
And that's kind of like unfortunately, the U.S. they do that a lot.
Yeah.
They just cover issues, and then have you come back and then cover that issue, and then over the whole time there's been an underlying issue that should have been treated first. So that was a big decision. That was a big decision where, okay, is the medical good? Great.
Yeah.
We're here. We're here. Definitely.
And it's largely considered to be the second best medical system on the continent. But personally, having been to South Africa and seeing how it operates and seeing how there's still a divide, a very, apartheid-esque divide that's still there, I often wonder if South Africa, claiming to have the best, standard of medicine, if that standard is accessible to all people. I'm not sure that
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Yeah. So for folks that look like me, I often think to myself that Kenya ends up being number one because it's accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Versus if you're in South Africa, there might be a certain level of first class citizen versus second class citizen that highest level of medicine is accessible to. But that's my opinion.
I would chime in on that and say another key factor for the medicine here is it's affordable.
Yeah.
It's affordable. You can, for an American like me, what I pay for in insurance versus what I paid out of pocket here.
Yeah.
Apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Completely different. There is no, I can't explain it. It's like, you see it and you're like, that's how much that costs? Where in the U.S., you're looking at a couple thousand for something minor.
Might be looking at bankruptcy.
Listen, I'm telling you. And here, it's like, hey, to get well shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
And that's the reality there. So I'm like, it's just it checks off so many boxes where it's like, okay, this is definitely doable.
Yeah.
It's more than doable. So that was just chiming in on that. That was a definite eye opener for me and my wife where we were like, hey, we can afford it as well,
Yeah.
and be healthy.
Yeah.
And then the way of life itself, I don't want to go on a tangent, but then the way of life, health-wise,
Yeah.
it's easy to be healthy
Yeah.
versus you have to take a loan out to go to Whole Foods
Yeah.
in the U.S. Lord forbid you go out to eat. You guys take out a college loan, you know what I'm saying? But those are very key factors where the bridge was now made where it's like, okay, we're really doing this.
Yeah.
And
Pounds of frozen, you finna get deported,
Yeah.
you know, because you decided you was gonna go in someone else's country and do what you felt like doing.
yeah,
So you definitely want to make sure no matter where you guys go, you want to make sure that you do it the right way. You find a legitimate team with as much vertical integration as possible, right? To make sure that you get everything done within that one shop. But you can wait. You don't have to get everything going at once. Get that first thing done, right? Make sure that it's legit. You get that first thing, you get everything that you need in that first tier of whatever it is, and then you can have confidence in, you know, all the tiers going forward. So this is it for us.
yes.
You've been talking to Tim and John from Diaspora Freedom Initiative. Hopefully we see you in Kenya someday soon. All right, and if you do and you come to Diani, we'll be here. We'll take you out for coffee.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, have fun.
Always.